microphone on. I call the November 2nd meeting of the Central Oklahoma Transportation and Parking Authority Board meeting to order. Item number 2 is items from the chairman, and we have a presentation today by FlixBus, and their representatives Michael Kahn and Ty Costa are here, and if they'd like to come up and start the meeting with their presentation.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for having us. It's a pleasure to be here. We're very excited to be expanding our service, hopefully next year, into this wonderful part of the country. Right now, we are in the U.S. on California, Arizona, and Nevada, but we have a much larger network of our bus transportation system in Europe, actually 27 countries in Europe, with the largest intercity bus carrier. So excited to show you a little bit about what we are thinking for this market. So a little bit of background on FlixBus. We have about 2,000 coaches on the road all throughout, like I said, 27 countries in Europe. We're only a 6-year-old company. The company was started in 2011, 2012. Essentially, the idea was that we're going to try to modernize bus travel. People, especially in the U.S., don't have a particularly great feeling about intercity bus travel. It's very much a car culture, and we want to do everything we can to help get cars off the road. So we started in Germany, Berlin, and Munich. Started there and expanded, expanded from Germany into a number of other countries. We actually merged with our largest competitor in 2015, and then really things took off from there. We've served about 120 million passengers in Europe so far. We launched our West Coast business this past May, so very excited to be now serving Los Angeles, San Francisco, Reno, San Diego, Las Vegas, and to both Tucson and Phoenix. As you see a picture of our current West Coast network. Skip through some of these. I think most importantly, we have a very unique partnership model, so we actually don't own or operate the buses ourselves. We work with high-quality local bus charter and tour companies who actually own the equipment. We provide the network planning, all the authorization, so this process we're doing here, meeting with different municipalities and different cities, transit authorities, trying to work through the different regulations and all that stuff. We build all the actual line details and the schedules. We do the sales, marketing, pricing, ticketing, everything that goes into getting the customer on board, as well as customer service. And then we leave the actual operation of the routes to our partners. So they provide the bus, the fuel, the drivers, sort of the Uber model, if you will. And it really is value accretive because we both focus on what we do best. So I think I'm going to introduce Ty, who's here to talk a little more about our work with governments.
So part of our job is to partner with transit agencies and local government so that we receive proper authorization to be able to come to a city when we expand. As you can see from this slide, we right now stop in the city of Santa Monica. We have partnerships with many universities, the BART system in San Francisco. So what we are seeking from this presentation and from you is essentially the ability to be able to come to town and pick up, drop off passengers at a central location that is very well connected to transit center with the intent so that our passengers will use your public transportation system as opposed to a car whenever they come and visit town. Oh, it's this button, sorry. Okay. So our service is like Michael said, long distance. We connect cities that are far away to different states. We don't compete with public transit. We actually just want to complement your service and do as much as we can to increase ridership for public agencies. Our buses are actually top of the line. Every bus that we have in our network is 3 years or younger. They all come with Wi-Fi, updated safety features, charging ports, and everything that you need, you could be done online through our customer service. So let's say you were to allow us to come and use one of your stations, you wouldn't have to worry about any sort of customer service from our customers at all. We provide 24/7 lines for our customers, and we also have a 24/7 traffic control line that is meant for agencies like yours. If you ever need to communicate with our buses or if there's ever any issues, you can call that line, and it's there to assist you. Most of our riders are millennials. We target a lot of college students and people who are tech savvy, but of course we serve anybody. Bus traveling has some sort of a stigma that's not really safe, so our bus model of business is completely different. As you can see, most of our customers are actually women and young people, and they feel very safe using our service. Most of our customers knows us from our European lines, so we see a lot of tourists that come from Europe and use the service while they're in the United States. So I think a really good value that we can add too is introducing your system to people from other countries so that when they come and visit, they know that they can use your system as opposed to renting a car. Like Michael said.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this, the network planning, the different responsibilities that are split between FlixBus and our bus partner. The goal here is that we're not just a big corporate coming to town. We are enabling smaller, most of the time family-owned companies who are local to build their businesses and expand into this type of line-run, city-to-city service when otherwise they wouldn't have that option. It's very hard for them to set up this type of service themselves. The cost to do so is at scale is without the scale of an entire network doesn't make sense. So by having us do our portion of it and then them doing the operations really helps a lot of these local operators grow. Many of them are smaller companies, 10, 20 buses up to 40 or 50 buses. So it's a great way to strengthen the local economy, provide jobs for drivers, et cetera. If I skip this one.
Yeah, we don't really have much time on this presentation. But one really cool thing about our company too is that we follow mostly the German labor laws, which are a bit stricter than the American law. So all of our drivers, they are very well protected. They have a maximum driving time of 10 hours, which is 2 hours less than what is required by the federal government. All of our night lines, we have 2 drivers on it to make sure that if a driver's tired, there's somebody else there that can take over the bus. So in the entire history of our company, there has never been a fatal accident or anything like that. We just take safety very seriously. And yes, traffic control. Let's skip that a little bit. This is an example of what a passenger sees when they buy a ticket. Most of our sales are done online, but we also have partners on the ground that want to sell tickets for us in person, and then we just give them a commission. So if there's ever any interest in to sell it in a booth, we can also set something like that up. And because our entire system is online based, all we do is we do the pickups and drop-offs in like 5 to 10 minutes, and the drivers check in the passengers really quickly. So we don't actually stay parked where we do our boarding for too long, which is part of our request is to have a place to stop at your station, so you can rest assured that we wouldn't take up much space. We can use pretty much any sort of space where a bus can fit. It could be a parking lot, a curbside, or bus bay, whatever you have available. We are very flexible with what we can do. And, for your reference, I also passed around a map to see where the line that we're planning would go. So we're essentially bringing people from Texas to Oklahoma right now. And in the future, as our company expands to the whole country, eventually we're going to connect it to other states like Kansas, Mississippi, Louisiana, and hopefully by the end of 2 years, the entire country. And that's it. Yeah.
Thank you guys so much.
Well, thank you for coming and presenting. Now, I understand that you're in discussion with stopping at the Santa Fe Depot in downtown Oklahoma City as your location, and working with Copta to establish that as your stopping point in Oklahoma City. Isn't that correct?
Yeah.
Generally, what would your price points be to Dallas or to Tulsa or San Antonio?
We use dynamic pricing, so similar to airlines, the farther out you buy, the less expensive it is, but it's probably going to be a $10 to $20 ticket. Maybe eventually go up to 20 or 30, but Dallas, it's going to start with $5 or $10, so very affordable. Again, the goal is that we serve everyone, right? It's not meant to be for higher-end business travelers only. It's not meant to be just for a low-income product. It's students, families, older folks, a combination of everyone. If you go to one of our bus stops in California, you'll see the dynamic sort of nature of our ridership. It's very good.
How often would you say take a bus to Dallas?
In terms of
Schedule.
schedules depends on the
I actually passed around some tentative schedules. Yes. So it's not going to be exactly that. We're still in the planning phase of getting authorization for the stops and getting the buses, but that's generally what we're looking at. In terms of frequency, it's a good idea.
Okay.
Wait, I'm sorry. How much did you say it would cost to go from here to Dallas?
Yeah, it's very low. I would encourage you to download the FlixBus app or go online and look at some of the prices for LA to San Diego or LA to Vegas. Anywhere between $10 and $20, eventually ramping up probably to closer to $30. But yeah, it's supposed to be low cost. And again, because of our partnership model, we're able to both parties focus on what we do best, and it actually is a much lower cost structure because the bus company is not focusing on the sales and marketing aspect. We're not focusing on the operation. So we're able to actually produce the miles a little bit cheaper than some of our competitors would, and therefore we can pass that saving on to customers.
That's incredible. People will use this because when I had the honor of studying over in Bologna, Italy, we rented a bus, €5 to go from Bologna, north central Italy, down to Rome. And I remember coming back here and bragging about that and just being, I couldn't believe that we went that many hours away for such a cheap cost. And so that it connects people to the different cities in this way that's really, really helpful for tourism.
Yeah, and what we want to do is encourage people, obviously, to travel to see other cities they wouldn't have necessarily traveled to before without having to rent a car, especially when cities have such strong public transit within the city. You can leave the car at home, and it enables the ability to then travel between cities. So,
When does the service start?
we're looking at the end of January right now, ideally. A lot of it depends on stations. We want to launch service only once we have really viable pickup points, and obviously everything we do, we want to play by the rules. We want to make sure we're talking to the right authorities. We don't just want to show up at a curb one day. That's not the way we do business. So depends on that, depends on the bus partner side. But
Kind of like the scooters, huh?
Exactly, yeah. We try to avoid that.
Because we also only operate with new buses, most times we have to order brand new buses, and it takes a while until they're manufactured and delivered. So
Early next year.
yeah, early next year.
Well, that's great.
What does the marketing look like here? Like who will be doing the outreach and letting our citizens in the city and metro know that this is a service that's going to be?
So we actually have the ability to put up Embark brochures on our buses that are coming to Oklahoma City with the routes and distribute it to passengers. So if they're taking a bus here, they will have it handy on them. There's also the possibility of linking up our website to Embark's website. So when a passenger buys a ticket, there'll be a message on their ticket saying, hey, use this system when you get to town. And I don't know how your ticket sales work, but if you sell multi-day tickets for tourists, which is the case in a lot of cities, it would be possible for us to direct them to that page so that they can buy it ahead of time as well.
Yeah, a lot of our marketing is social media, Facebook, Instagram, attracting, again, a population of bus ridership that doesn't exist right now with the current providers. So really attracting and engaging with a younger demographic and encouraging them to, and we hear all the time people step on a bus and say, wow, this is a bus? This is not what I expected from 30 years ago. That's
Okay, thank you. And you can check with FlixBus online and get more information.
Let us know if you have any other questions. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, are there any citizens to be heard today? If not, we'll move on to approval of minutes, the approval of the COPTA board meeting held on October 5th, 2018. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, on the consent docket, there are 9 items on that. Or any trustees want to pull any of the items for individual consideration? Otherwise, is there a motion to accept the consent docket? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, moving on to individual items for consideration. The first one, we have a public hearing today regarding the route changes in our system. And Chip Nolan is going to give us an update or lead us through that process. Chip?
So good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. I'll talk about some proposed service changes we plan to take effect at the end of January. We've previously to this public hearing, we've had 2 community meetings at the transit center. We had a few people show up at one of those, and all these changes we're proposing today were very well received. So I'll kind of walk through the same presentation I gave at those meetings and then open it up to anyone that may want to speak in the public or if you have questions for me. So we're proposing, let's see here. There we go. We received, so in addition to the community meetings, we accepted comments through our email or letters to our office. As of yesterday, I don't believe we've received any comments through those modes, but we're still accepting comments through email or letters if anyone feels they want to give us feedback. So we're changing kind of 2 small, what I would call small route changes, and then Sunday service. So the 2 small route changes are kind of both, what I would say, we're trying to bring our services closer to people that will use them frequently without compromising our service frequency or on-time performance. So these are changes we think will benefit our system. You may have to turn your head a little bit sideways for this map, but the first change is Route 8. So the proposed change would be leaving the transit center, you'd go west on 4th Street, south on Douglas, west on 3rd, and then north on Virginia. The primary target for this change is the Homeless Alliance on 4th and Virginia. And then it would make the same trip going back to the transit center, going south on Virginia, west on Southwest 3rd, north on Douglas, by Newview, and then east on 4th back to the transit center. Again, this is same headway, same frequency. I don't think it will harm on-time performance at all, but just bringing our service a little bit closer to people that use it on a frequent basis. Currently, the closest stop to the Homeless Alliance is on Linwood in Kentucky, and that for fiscal year 18, we averaged about 35 boardings per day, which is quite a bit. So we think bringing this service to their facility will be a benefit for them. And they've also got a bus bay there at their facility that we'll be able to utilize. The other one is Route 9. We're proposing taking Route 9, keeping on General Pershing to May, then May to Reno, and continuing on the regular route, and then the same trip in reverse going back to the transit center, going north on May and then on General Pershing back to the transit center. This change is primarily targeted to, there's a complex of agencies there on the north side of General Pershing, east of May. There's North Care, and then 2 facilities that are under construction, Remerge and Positive Tomorrows. We think that will benefit from this change. And again, able to preserve frequency, on-time performance, and headways. And then the area on Villa and Reno east of May that we would no longer serve, it's very underutilized. I think it averaged maybe 1 boarding per day on those stops. It's an industrial area, and the land use really isn't conducive to transit, so we don't think anything will be missing there in that change. And then, of course, Sunday service. It would mimic Saturday service exactly, just on Sunday. So we'd have service 7 days a week for the first time. Of course, we're very excited about that. And so those are the changes. And then we also had comment cards for people at the meetings if they want to fill out those. And so that's, with that, I'll answer any of your questions or give anyone from the public a chance to speak if they want to.
Chip, could I ask you to share with the trustees, with the changes to Route 9, what we feel like is at least a safety enhancement with the left turn?
Right, sure. So I can go back. So Route 9, one of the benefits in addition to serving North Care and Positive Tomorrows, right now turning from General Pershing onto Villa is an unprotected left. The traffic doesn't stop on Villa, and so the bus doesn't have a turn lane either. So the bus just has to wait for an open window to make that left turn. But now there's a traffic light at General Pershing in May and a protected left turn and a traffic light. So the bus will be able to wait at a light in a left turn lane to be able to make that left turn onto Main. So that's an additional safety for our drivers and our passengers in addition to being able to serve North Care that we think will be a good change.
And then we also might expand on the changes to Route 8 in that technically they'll be effective January the 27th.
Correct.
However, we will detour the route to keep it on the route that it currently serves until we can complete some bus stop enhancements on Douglas, primarily for our customers that work at Newview. So we want to make sure we have, proper transit amenities for that customer base before we completely shift the route and create an alternate location for those customers to use Route 8. So
Right, and I've met with staff from Newview out at their location to talk about where the new bus stops would go, and met with Public Works to talk about the price and the timeline to make that happen. So it's underway, and we think we'll be able to pull it off pretty close to when the service changes are scheduled to take, and if not, we'll just continue the existing route until those stops can be upgraded to be ADA compliant.
And the start date on all the service changes is January 27th is the initial date?
So, and then today is the public hearing, and then we'd evaluate any feedback and then bring this for adoption at the next board meeting.
So are there any citizens here that would like to comment on these route changes and enhancements? I'm sure the Sunday service is, you don't get any negative feedback to that. That's a great addition. Are there any trustees that would like to comment on this as part of the public hearing? Okay. If not, thank you, Chip. So item A2 is a resolution detailing the public hearing regarding route changes to Route 8 and Route 9 and addition of the regularly scheduled bus service on Sundays for the routes listed with planned implementation for the change of January 27, 2019. So is there a motion to adopt this resolution?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Item B is the ratification and approval of amendment number 1 awarding the contract to Trillium Transportation Fuels, LLC, DBA Trillium, for our revised CNG fueling station on South May, and approval of the contract and bonds. Is there...
for just a little information on this item, as you can see, it's been a project we've been working on now for a couple years. We actually engaged Wendell Architectural Services to help us with the design and the bid back in December of 2016. Through that process and working with the FTA through the environmental process, we were able to bid the project back in May, and the trust took action at that time to rebid the project. So we re-advertised September 19th and opened bids on October 10th. And you can see there that the low bid was from Trillium Transportation, $3,265,322. And so, again, this is a project that we've been working on for a while. It's a great opportunity to add the infrastructure to our site at 2000 South May in order to support our conversion to our CNG bus fleet, not just the fixed route large buses, but also the paratransit buses. And then, again, I know it's been a little while since we've seen the plans and specifications, but this is a very, I guess I would say, pretty substantial CNG fueling facility when you think about the fact that, we have 49 buses that have to make lineup every morning. When you're servicing the buses and fueling them and cleaning them at night, in some cases there's a very short window to get these buses turned around and back out the next day. So the ability to be able to fill the buses, at the same rate we're able to do with our diesel buses is important for us to make lineups. So it's a substantial facility, dual compressors, on-site storage, and so forth. So with approval of this contract, we will issue notice to proceed.
Okay, are there any questions or discussion on this item? If not, is there a motion to ratify and approve the contract? Okay, all in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Item C is ratification of the administrator's actions of approval of amendments number 1, 2, 3, and 4 to the plans and specifications, and request the board to award contract to Genco Construction Company project for the Santa Fe parking garage, white box and tenant improvements for $2,755,000 and approve the contract and bonds. Jason.
Good morning, everyone. We've been working on this project for some time. We rebid the project originally as there was, in order to not do some repairs for financial reasons to the garage, but the unit space is commonly known as the UCO space, and then two smaller vacant spaces that have been vacant for some time. We'll go through and demolish everything, basically bring it all the way back to a parking garage, and then go in and improve the, install fire sprinkler system, interior partitions for office space and meeting rooms, a ceiling system, all LED lights, new HVAC system, flooring, increased roof insulations, and really activate that area, all of which will need to take place after we take care of the asbestos removal remediation of the asbestos-containing products in the building. Any questions?
Any questions or comments on item C? If not, is there a motion to ratify the administrator's actions and approve the contract?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Item D is the approval of the contract for architectural services with FSB for project MB 1453 to design, bidding, and construction services for the installation of public parking signs for COPTA's parking garages, estimated cost of $51,500. Corey?
So these are, we installed two signs on the Sheridan Walker garage that were looked at positively. This would install a total of 5 signs, 2 at the Cox Convention Center garage, 2 at the Arts District garage, and then a single sign at the Century Center garage. Big variation in comparison to what we have on the Sheridan Walker garage. The signs will remain the same, but the signs in this project would be installed on posts around the sidewalk area so that they can be seen by the public and accomplish what we want to accomplish, advertising the garages as open for public parking.
They're the same height and size as the other ones?
The sign's the same, it's just the mounting that would be different. It would be post-mounted signs.
Are there any other questions or comments? If not, is there a motion to approve the contract for the architectural services? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, moving on to, thank you, Corey. Item E is adopt a resolution ratifying the administrator's actions entering into an agreement with Voya Financial for short-term disability and life insurance programs for eligible COPTA employees and retirees, estimated cost of $102,000 annually, effective for the calendar year 2019.
Yes, so our current contract with Mutual of Omaha was set to expire at the end of this calendar year. So staff actually contacted the insurance broker that the city uses. That has a contract with Alliant Insurance Services, and by using that broker, we were actually able to obtain 3 quotes for the disability, short-term disability and life insurance that, as mentioned in the memo, COPTA provides to employees and retirees. And so you can see there in the memo the amounts of each one of those quotes and the change in the rates versus what we're currently paying. And so what I would like to point out is that if you look at Voya Financial there at the bottom, the renewal amount is just basically $102,000, but that's about 36% less than what we are currently paying. So we were able to really realize some pretty good savings by going through this brokerage service. The other thing that I think is important to mention is that they have agreed to lock in those rates. I believe it's for 3 years. And then even though the contract is set to expire December 31st, 2019, at the end of the first calendar year, we are anticipating with this agreement with Voya having the opportunity for 4 one-year renewals.
Okay, is there any discussion on this item? If not, is there a motion to adopt the resolution, ratify the administrator's actions?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, item F is the adopt a resolution authorizing purchase of 3 CNG Lone Star ProMaster full-size low-floor vans from the state contract with an estimated cost of $321,345.
So as we've focused our efforts over the last few years in replacing our fixed route bus fleet, and as the trustees are aware, we have no large fixed route buses that are past their useful life. So that's a great thing for the condition of our fleet. However, vehicles, they wear out. And so now we're working on replacing our paratransit bus fleet. We currently have 15 of our paratransit buses that need to be replaced. We have funding sources and funding plans identified within our capital improvement plan to replace these buses. However, with this item here that we're presenting to the board for consideration, we're using a state contract to recommend the purchase of 3, as mentioned, Lone Star low-floor vans. So this is a little bit different style paratransit vehicle than what we've had in the past. It's a much smaller van. We anticipate the operating costs being less because it should be more fuel efficient. It's a more nimble vehicle. So we are requesting authorization to purchase these vehicles to just introduce them to the fleet and see how it goes. They will hold 6 passengers along with 2 wheelchairs. I'm sorry, one other thing. On the source of funds, I did want to mention we have transit capital reserves there listed, and that's just an error. We'll be funding the purchase of these 3 vans using our federal grants, which is a 85-15 split, I believe, on rolling stock.
So we actually have more money allocated for this project. You'll be using less money to purchase these smaller vans.
Well, actually, the cost of the vans, when we compare this size van to the larger vehicles that we're using now, the cost really isn't a whole lot of difference in terms of purchase price. What we're anticipating is hopefully having less operating costs. One, there'll be CNG, so the fuel will be cheaper. But then, secondly, hopefully they should be just a more efficient vehicle in terms of hopefully mileage and maintenance.
The basic cost is pretty much the same.
Yes.
And the low floor allows a ramp type system rather than a lift type system.
Right. That is correct. And that will be a shift both for our bus operators and for our customers. So we'll be, monitoring and hoping to get feedback on the change.
Okay, is there any other discussion or questions? If not, is there a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing purchase of these 3 vehicles?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, item G is a resolution authorizing free rides on the Oklahoma City streetcar, the circulator Route 50 and Zone 1A paratransit services for the first 3 weeks of streetcar services.
Yes, so a couple comments on this item. Obviously, we're very excited to announce what our free period for streetcar will be. As described, it's the first 3 weeks of service. And the reason we are recommending the 3 weeks is thinking of our launch date of December 14th, pending approval from state safety oversight. That would be our first weekend of service, which would run us all the way through, we would like to run the free service all the way through opening night activities, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And then that would put us into midweek. So staff is recommending we just go ahead and extend the period for a full 3 weeks, which would have the first day of revenue service where we're actually charging a fare as January the 5th. One other thing to mention is that you'll notice Zone 1A ADA paratransit is mentioned. This will be a new zone within 3/4 of a mile of the streetcar route. So we'll have a Zone 1A in that immediate downtown area, and then our Zone 1, 2, and 3 that I know the trustees are well familiar with.
Okay, is there any other comments or discussion from the trustees? If not, is there a resolution authorizing the free rides?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, item H is resolution authorizing free rides on fixed route bus, Zone 1, ADA paratransit, and streetcar service on election days in November 2018, February of 2019, and April of 2019. Jason?
Yeah, so we've identified the 3 election days for the remainder of this fiscal year, and again are recommending to the trustees that we provide free transit service on those election days to be able to essentially enable anyone that might not have transportation otherwise to get to the polls by using the Embark bus system. So this is a new series of free transit days that we'll be introducing. We're excited to do it and make that recommendation to the trustees. And if I could, while we're talking about free limited transit, I did want to kind of back up. One thing I failed to mention when we were talking about the free streetcar service for 3 weeks is that just a reminder, I think, for everyone is recalling our fare structure that the Board of Trustees adopted. Keep in mind that any of our regular bus customers that are buying bus passes will be able to use those bus passes on the streetcar at no additional charge. So although we're talking about a free 3-week period, really our existing customers are going to be able to use that streetcar at no extra charge if they're currently buying bus passes. So sorry for backing us up there, Chairman.
That's okay. That's great information. So is there a motion on the resolution to authorize free rides on election days? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, we are going to pull item I from consideration this month and bring it back in the future. So moving on to ratification of claims and payroll for October 2nd through October 30th. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, we have our COPTA financial reports, revenue and expenses, budget to actual for the 3 months ending September 30th. Jason?
A few comments on the financials, and I'll make them brief as I know we still have program reports on the agenda. But I would direct your attention to page 2 of the budget to actual for the 3 months ending September 30th. So this is kind of a look at where we're at through the first quarter of the fiscal year. Page 2 is our transportation operations, and I would direct your attention to the top portion of that report, the revenues. If you look at the total revenue, we are within 92% of what we had projected when we developed our budget. You'll see there that we're basically almost $500,000 less than what we had estimated. But I would direct your attention to our federal grant revenue line item. You'll notice that grant item is $483,000 less than what we had budgeted. So pretty much all of our variance is in that federal grant reimbursement. And as I mentioned last month, we actually did not take a reimbursement draw in September because of just the way the federal draw system works. They basically kind of shut down that month and reset. So we were not able to take a draw. I will tell you October's reimbursement draw will be less than normal because we're actually going to be between grants for October. We'll be using the remaining authority in one and then applying for the next one. So you're probably going to be looking at the financial through November before we really kind of get back on pace, our timing in terms of revenue, reimbursements, and our budget. Looking at the expenditures, similar to what we looked at last month, we continue to run our expenditures under budget. We're at about 94% of what we had anticipated, with most of that savings coming in the personal services category. But again, we would expect those amounts to be much closer to budget as we start rolling into Sunday service, and we have the additional labor hours associated with that. So looking at the next page, this is our parking operations. Again, direct your attention to the revenues. We're about $200,000 less than what we had budgeted through 3 months of the fiscal year. Most of that is derived from monthly contract revenue coming in less than what we had expected. And again, as we've mentioned before, we basically lost a large contract parker out of the Santa Fe parking garage. It's impacting those numbers. Nonetheless, if you direct your attention to the expenditures, we are continuing to maintain and operate the garages basically right on budget in terms of expenditures. Our operating income, in other words, revenues in excess of expenditures through 3 months of the fiscal year, you can see is right at $1 million. However, there's about 2 months worth of expenses attributed to Republic Parking Systems that are not reflected in this these expenditure totals. So we're actually still to the good over $500,000 through 3 months of the fiscal year. Then looking at the next page, page 4, this is our river cruises operation. Direct your attention to the revenues. We're about $6,000 less than what we had budgeted through the 3 months of the fiscal year. I would say the primary reason for that is canceled trips. Our canceled trips this year are basically 71% higher than the previous year, so we have had some canceled trips impacting our revenues. A lot of that is due to the rain and then the debris that comes into the river. I will direct your attention to the specialty cruises revenue, though. You'll notice it's coming in about $8,300 over target. And again, we would credit that to some of the shifts we made in the schedule, where we've basically reduced the number of transit hours and then expanded the specialty cruise hours, which give us more opportunity to generate revenue through those specialty cruises. I'm looking at the expenditures. We're essentially on track with budget at about 97% of what we would have expected through 3 months of the fiscal year. Looking at Spokie's bike share system, again, the only thing I would really point out here is if you look at the operating income, we show to be $115,000 more than in revenue than expenses. But again, just as a reminder, we do go ahead and take that general fund payment at the first of the fiscal year to kind of seed the operations with the required funds. So you'll see as we go through the fiscal year that operating income diminish some.
Excuse me, is Spokie's income down because of our new scooter service?
Not really, especially if you look at the September 30th data. I don't know that the scooters had been that active through that period. Our ridership is down a little bit. I'm sure some of it has to do with scooters, also with weather. But the primary reason you see the variance here of 14,000 less than what we had budgeted on the revenue is for this budget period. We've always budgeted some sponsorship revenue to supplement the actual revenue generated by people paying for the Spokie's bikes, and we've combined that into one revenue line for budgeting purposes. So if we are able to garner a sponsorship, we'll be able to recoup what we show now as a revenue shortfall. And we're optimistic we can do that, especially now that we have Houck Advertising working for us, trying to to identify those sponsorships. Then looking at the last page, our streetcar operations, would just direct your attention to the total expenditures. You'll see we're at about 33% of what we had anticipated. Obviously, we've got some timing issues, particularly with the invoices that are coming and being processed from Herzog Transit Services. So looking into future months, we'll get the expenditures more in line with what we had anticipated on budget.
Okay, are there any questions or comments on the financial reports? If not, is there a motion to receive the reports?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, moving on into our program reports. The first one is the transit system report.
Mr. Sumner, Mr. Couch, trustees, good morning. Thanks for having us. Nice to see you. I'm going to touch on 4 topics of the September 2018 transit report: safety, ridership, on-time performance, and how we measure up to our fiscal year-to-date report card. We were responsible for 4 preventable accidents during the month of September. 2 of those were major. In one case, we turned a corner too tightly and scraped a utility pole for a cost of $3,400. In another case, we unfortunately scraped one of our streetcar platforms, causing $1,500 worth of damage to our bus. We experienced 5 non-preventable accidents during the month of September. In each case, a non-embarked vehicle struck our buses. In one of those 5 cases, a non-embarked vehicle struck a non-embarked vehicle, which then struck our bus. Our operators do just a tremendous job out there navigating these streets, and my hat's off to them. If you'll take a look at the average daily fixed route ridership, you'll see that our ridership fell from 10,914 riders per day, or trips per day, to 10,275, which is a 5.8% decrease. Our overall Monday through Friday year-to-date ridership is decreased by 4.5%. If you look at our new night service average daily ridership, you'll see that we're just about where we were last year. In fact, we're under by 0.7%. If you look at our on-time performance, you'll see that our on-time performance slipped by 5.8%. I'm sorry, by 2.5%, thank goodness. And I can tell you that we are in our second month of our new operations manager, who we imported from Pennsylvania and has years and a whole career worth of experience, Dan McKeon back there, of experience dealing with 1,000 buses and thousands of employees. And he is working diligently and will bring up our on-time performance. In fact, his last missive to all of our people was this morning at 8:27. So we're on the case. I'm just going to run through our percent attainment of our year-to-date goals. In the number of passengers per fixed route, we're at 96%. Number of passengers per operating day, we're at 94%. Number of on-time bus arrivals, we're at 87%. You're working on that, Dan, right? Thank you. Number of miles driven between road calls, we're at 101%, which is very good. Number of accidents per 100,000 miles, we're at 61%, which is good. And we're going to do better in our number of passenger claims per 100,000 miles, which is 290%. I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Any questions for Kevin? No, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Our next report is our streetcar report. Jesse?
Good morning. All right, I'll get through it quickly. It's a fairly long presentation, so I'll just jump right in. 42 days until ribbon cutting, and I caught my breath. All right, so operations, so we continue our committee meetings weekly now. As we're getting closer to ribbon cutting, we're meeting weekly so that we can approve documents as needed. Embark and MAPS, we continue to work jointly to provide information to our state safety oversight in preparation for our ribbon cutting. And then Embark and Herzog Transit, we attended our joint state safety oversight and rail transit agency workshop in D.C. last week. It was a great workshop. We were able to build relationships with other agencies as well as our state safety oversight and the FTA. So we also continue our integrated testing. We continue wrapping up our integrated testing on the Bricktown Loop and our downtown loop. As you can tell from the picture, we're very, very safe. Everyone can see us at all times. So what goes into the integrated testing, getting the streetcars out onto the route? So before we ever bring a streetcar out onto the downtown loop, the first thing we do is we do a visual inspection for clearance, right? So we go out, take tape measures, measure signs, and then the next thing we do is we take this wayside clearance test cart, so it's a mock-up of the streetcar. It's actually riding on the rails. We take that around the entire downtown loop, checking for clearances to platforms, signs, trees, those types of things. And then if there's anything that's encroaching into the envelope, we go out and take care of it before we ever take the streetcar out. So then, next thing we do is we take a streetcar out that's non-powered, and so we have a tow truck bring it out. We tow it around the downtown loop. So if you remember, on the Bricktown Loop, we were able to use a F550 to tow the streetcar around because we had such a large grade, a 4% grade there on 4th Street. We didn't want to take any chances, so we brought Farrington Wrecker out to tow the streetcar around the downtown loop. The next thing we do is we test the OCS clearance. So C3M, one of the contractors for Herzog Stacy, they've got this OCS test cart here. They tow it behind their truck. They have the boom truck up there next to the OCS so they can get a close visual of what's going on. They drag this cart all through the downtown area, checking for clearances, looking for any encroachment into the envelope of the wire also for safety. And then we move on to bringing the streetcar out under power. So this is a picture of us taking 2018-01 on the downtown loop, right here next to Kaiser's, going through the roundabout there. With the same thing, we take the streetcar out there, we test it for clearances, and also just for performance and the wheel-to-rail interface. And then the next thing we do is, once we've got the streetcar out there, and then we try to test its performance, try to take it to the max. So we develop scenarios of what our maximum like streetcar load would be on some of our substations. So I've got a video here. So what we did is we took 3 streetcars out on 11th Street. We tested shutting down the substations except for the one that powers this area here. And then we loaded the streetcars up to AW3, which is a fully loaded streetcar. We loaded them with water. And then we powered full throttle the 3 streetcars at the exact same time to try to overload the substations. So the reason for these tests is to see if there's any failures, and to test the programming of the substations. So we did 3 tests. The first 2 let us adjust the substations, and this is our 3rd test where everything worked flawlessly. It's a little 25-second video here. Successful test. Justin, I think you got to go next one there for me. All right. So, and then also we're continuing to work with Herzog Transit Public Works and Jacobs on our transit signal priority integration. Good news here, we have the maps passed a change order this last subcommittee to add a signal prioritization for the Bricktown Loop. So what that does is that adds signal prioritization to 4 signals along the Bricktown Loop and also installs the Opticom equipment on the streetcars. And we're working on developing route times and stuff for the downtown loop and evaluating that also as part of our signal priority integration committee. So this slide here is just a snippet of some of the different departments that we're working with the City of Oklahoma City, just in preparation for the streetcar coming online. I won't go into every single one of them, but you can see that we're working with mostly everyone. So some of the cool things that we're doing is we're working with development services. We're actually getting the streetcar notification permit as part of that permit procedure. So if you go into request a revocable permit to work within the street or within the right-of-way and along the streetcar route, we have a notification form that's attached to that permit. You fill that permit or that notification form out. We actually become part of the sign-off process. So we'll receive your drawings and those types of things to see if you're going to have any cranes or anything that's going to be fouling the streetcar envelope, and then we sign off on the permit. And then part of that notification is that they have to, before they ever come out and do work along the streetcar route, is they have to receive our safety training that Herzog Transit provides to teach them how to work around the streetcar envelope. So again, we're working with everyone at the city to get ready for streetcar startup. So this is our graph showing our hiring procedures and the training. So we are wrapping up our training of all of our operators and our supervisors. We got our last 4 operators just wrapped up their class time, and now they're moving on to their seat time. And here is our lovely roster of Herzog Transit employees. So the last 2 hires we've got are the service maintainers, and they actually accepted their acceptance or provided their acceptance letter last week, and so we expect them to show up next week. So one of the cool things that we get to do, part of the FTA requirements for startup, is we do 2 tabletop exercises, which those have been completed, and then we do a full-scale emergency exercise, and it's actually happened this Wednesday. We had a lot of volunteers throughout the city, including some Embark employees. It's good to see Marilyn doing so well after her major injuries on Wednesday, but great recovery time. So the scenario here is that we had a 1-ton truck that struck a pole, OCS pole in Bricktown, and then made their way to Hudson, where they sideswiped the streetcar, causing multiple injuries inside the streetcar. We had a total of 34 passengers on the streetcar, 11 major injuries. And then what happens is we tested the communication of the Herzog Transit employees, Embark employees, the first responders, fire and police, hazmat, because the 1-ton truck had hazardous material in the bed that spilled onto the road, public works, containment, and happy to report that it went very well. It was a little cold and rainy, but everyone was happy to be there, and it went very, very well. And obviously the main reason for these exercises is to learn things. We learned a lot. We learned that there are better ways to communicate, and we'll take those actions and we'll do better. And so also part of the process is that we'll be doing full-scale field exercises yearly to better learn from our experiences. So also one of the cool things we got to do is we, Embark and MAPS 3, held a rail signing ceremony. We allowed city leaders to come out and sign the rail. So if anyone here hasn't had a chance to sign the rail, we haven't clear-coated it. It's actually at the storage and maintenance facility still. Come on down and sign it, and then we'll get it clear-coated. And then we also got to reveal our final track pour plaque from October 25th, so it was pretty exciting. Bricktown Loop continues with punch list work, getting that stuff wrapped up. Same thing with the downtown loop. We have substantial completion of the downtown loop, and now we're wrapping up with punch list work. And then the final slide here is vehicle procurement. We have vehicle number 7. I have a typo up there. It's showing October 27th, but it's actually arriving November 12th. And our capital side is working very diligently to get that vehicle accepted through City Council so we can have it for revenue service. And that's it. Take any questions you got.
Any questions or comments for Jesse? We're excited.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the third report we're going to have today is the mobility management report.
Good morning. It's great to see everybody today. We did have a lovely time on the streetcar despite the weather. It was quite interesting to get to be in it and watch the first responders. I want to caution you as we're going through the slides here. We've been looking at our ridership in preparation for offering paratransit on Sunday service. And so one of the things that we've done is look at smaller blocks of time rather than entire fiscal years. So we've been looking at the quarter over improvements year over year by quarter. So some of the numbers I'm going to quote to you today are actually first quarter numbers compared to last year's first quarter. So the first thing is our Senior transportation services. And as we have talked about over previous presentations, the ridership for senior transportation over the last 3 years had been dropping. And so we made a goal to have increased outreach to try to reach more seniors about these services. And I'm pleased to tell you that so far in the first quarter this year, we've done a little over 12,000 trips, and that's almost a 3,000 trip increase over the same period last year. So it's nice to know that our outreach sessions are indeed working, and we are getting many new riders for this service because the baby boomer population is aging, and that will continue, we think. One other big activity that we were able to do this year that we have not been able to do the last 3 years due to budget was our annual senior picnic. And what we do with this is we provided the rides for over 300 seniors to go to the regional park in Midwest City. It was a torrential downpour. We thought we were going to have to cancel it. We were surprised to have 300 seniors, and they had a ball despite the weather. They had a live band. They got to have a cookout. There was dancing. We played bingo. It was very well received, and I was really thrilled that we had the funds this year in that grant to be able to do this for them, because they consider it one of their big social events of the year is this picnic. Another thing that we do every year is we work with the Area-Wide Aging Agency and OG&E to deliver fans for them, for seniors. OG&E donates the fans. Area-Wide coordinates people signing up to receive a fan, and then we assist them in delivering those fans. And so you can see here, this is Becky Nolan delivering fans. She is our senior transportation coordinator, and she does a fantastic job. This is our CDGV, Community Development Block Grant Program for homeless and low income. These are first quarter numbers. We are doing very well with the bus passes. I took the liberty this time in your board report packet to provide you, because we've talked about some of the agencies that we work with. This year we're working with 60 agencies, and I've actually provided you a list so that you would have that information. This is going good. The sheriff fair is picking up just a little bit. Bus pass distributions are picking up just a little bit. We've also started assisting United Way, was a new agency that we've added this year. What we found, thanks to Jason's referral from the United Way, was that the people actually go to the main United Way office and are referred to partner agencies, but the United Way never had any way to transport those people or offer transportation assistance from United Way's office to Positive Tomorrow's or New View or wherever they were being referred to. So by adding United Way to this, we've been able to give them some bus passes. They're one-day bus passes, and they can send their clients out to get referred to other agencies, which is a big. Embark Plus Paratransit, these are looking at the first quarter over the last 3 years, and as you can see, our demand is climbing steadily. There's an increase of 574 trips overall. We went back all the way to 2015 because we are trying to plan for Sunday service, and we've never offered paratransit on Sundays. Speaking with some other agencies about how they handle Sunday paratransit services, we've been told that church can be a bit challenging. So one of the things that we've done is we've created an online survey for our existing paratransit customers that we're taking this month to try to estimate, are they planning on using the service on Sunday? If so, what kind of trips do they see themselves taking? Are they going to take them just for church in the morning? Do they want to go in the afternoon to go shopping, go hang out with the family, things like that? So that we can try to figure out what our staffing schedule needs to be and the number of vehicles that we need to have available on a Sunday. Saturday, the service is going to mirror Saturday, and we've been seeing an increase of about 200 trips over Saturday. And as you've probably seen in the transit system report, the overall demand for paratransit on Saturday is double-digit growth year over year. So we are expecting Sunday to be quite busy as well. We've talked a lot about, there we go. We've talked a lot about on-time performance and on-time pickups for paratransit, and today I kind of wanted to spend a little bit of time talking to you about what we call capacity denials. The federal government, the FTA, Federal Transit Administration, requires us to provide the complimentary paratransit service in 3/4 of a mile of the fixed routes. And part of that requirement is that we have the capacity to be able to provide those trips to all eligible passengers. If we are unable to provide the trip time within an hour of their requested time, and they don't want to go outside that hour, we have to record that trip request as a capacity denial. Now, the FTA would like us to have 0 capacity denials. We can't afford to have 100 bus operators and 100 vehicles sitting around waiting for one person to call for a ride at 10:15. So we are going to have capacity denials. So we set a target internally and at BART to keep those capacity denials under 2% of the total trip requests. So far, we have been able to do that. There's been a couple of individual months where we have gone over 2%, but our yearly average has stayed under 2%. So the goal is 0, like I said. Our target is 2. In September of 2018 is the month that we went over. We went to 2.02%. Our denials are increasing from 2015 to 2018. They've increased by 564. So we are looking at ways that we can get a handle on this, what kind of staffing changes we might need to make, what kind of changes in our run structure or the number of vehicles that are available at certain times during the day. So we've been doing quite a bit of data crunching and looking at the numbers on this to try to see what we can do to prevent this from going any higher. And then, of course, the last thing is our on-time pickup percentage. As you know, our LFO target for this is 92.5% of our trips will be an on-time pickup. In other words, we arrive within that 30-minute pickup window of the passenger's requested pickup time. We are really proud of staff and this improvement in performance. They have made or been above target for 16 straight months. So we are really proud of them. And that is all I have. If you have any questions.
Are there any questions for Mary?
What is the percentage, or I don't know if you keep this percentage, of the seniors that live independently as opposed to needing service from group living or something?
The vast majority of our seniors that use our services actually live at home. I mean, that's the entire goal of the Older Americans Act, is to help people age in place. It is significantly less expensive on the state to provide those assistive services rather than to provide, inpatient housing or, at a retirement center. We do have some groups that live in the various Oklahoma City Housing Authority senior centers that we also transport for shopping. And we work really closely with Oklahoma City Housing Authority to make sure everybody gets serviced. Because some of the senior locations for them, they actually have a van, so they take care of it. But then there's other locations that don't, and we will help them. But the vast majority of them live at home.
Any other questions or comments? If not, thank you. Do we have a motion to receive our program reports?
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, items from the trustees. James? Okay. Mr. City Manager?
This is probably my last COPTA meeting, so I just want to let you all know that I enjoyed working with you over the years, and of anything that has probably improved so greatly over the last 18 years or so is the service that we provided. The financial health of the parking garages, the changes we've made to the changing downtown areas, and the improvements we made to the transit service. 18 years ago, I think only 2 reports at the end were transit and parking, and now we've got Spokies and streetcars and marketing and boats, absolutely. And so we've really grown and changed over the last couple of decades, and very much for the better. And the staff that we've been able to bring in, that Jason's been able to bring in, a lot of folks that we've really upped our game over the years. So I've just enjoyed working with you all.
Well, I'll echo thank you very much for your service and leadership for everything you've done for the COPTA board. Jason.
A couple of items. Would like to introduce a new staff member to the trustees. We have Kristen Torkelson joining us. If you haven't had an opportunity to meet Kristen, she has come to us from ADG. She worked on the construction side of the streetcar project. She was like the city contact primarily, and just being the liaison out there in the field, working with all the business owners along the route, coordinating all the communications. You signed up for the MAPS 3 streetcar updates every Friday, which I'm sure you did. She's the author of all of that information. So we're excited to have her now as part of the Embark team. And what we are optimistic about is all the skills and the relationships that she had on the construction side will just carry right over to operations, because we're going to be experiencing just a new set of questions and situations to deal with once we go into revenue service. But Kristen's help, we'll be more than prepared to handle that. The other thing I wanted to mention is to make sure you get a look at the Sheridan Walker parking garage on your way out of downtown. The mural has started, the work on the mural has started that the trustees approved, and I think you're going to be pleased if you haven't seen it yet. It really has changed the look of the garage, even with what they have done so far. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is, again, just a reminder for anyone that might be viewing, the trustees approved free transit for veterans on November 12th in observance of Veterans Day, so we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that. And we look forward to serving our veterans at no charge for transit on that day.
That's great. Well, thank you all very much, and happy November, and we stand adjourned.